Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this Thursday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Dave Percy with the National Weather Service, and I will be hosting this evening's show. Up first, we've got a flood advisory here for the greater McGrath and Nikolai area, northern Kuskokwim Valley, out for tonight for possible flooding conditions. High stream level or high levels on the streams and creeks in that area. And moving on to fire danger, not much going on here on the chart. I kind of had to really work this zone in here in the Copper River Basin, and some dry conditions there over the extreme northern panhandle, Haines, say on up towards Skagway and those locations. Otherwise, the high fire danger is ended, at least for the moment. And for satellite imagery today, dry out here to the west, but there is a system pushing some clouds eastward there, along with some moisture into the Seward Peninsula back down towards St. Lawrence Island, and then some cloudiness dropping down in toward Bethel. Kind of a break here in the interior with some sunshine from Fairbanks back off to the northwest there, and also Cook Inlet and part of the Copper River Basin. And another system there south of the Queen Charlotte's, right in that location, that pushing some clouds up into the southern southeast coast, but pretty dry Kodiak Island, northeastern Bristol Bay, not too bad of a day there. And another rather weak front pushing, you can see a band of clouds there, brought a little bit of precipitation to the Pribilof Islands, that extending southward here across the Alaska Peninsula, breaking out back to the west, and just a lot of clouds here, light wind conditions back across all of the Aleutians. And rolling that forward again, had some moisture here slipping off to the northwest there, brought a little bit of light rain to the areas of the central Arctic coast today, and more cloudiness here streaming northwestward there across Arctic Village out toward the Kaktovik area. And that had some isolated thunderstorms in it today, nothing too widespread, at least up until 3:30 or 4 p.m. this afternoon. Also a strike detected up over the Berks Range, and one farther south there into the or along the Alaska Range. Otherwise, partly to mostly cloudy skies with some areas of sunshine here across much of the central interior, southern Alaska, again down into Bristol Bay, and that triggered some showers over the mountains. Nothing heavy or very widespread, but they were sort of in a building pattern throughout the afternoon today. Fair skies here, Yakutat over into the northern southeast coast, partly sunny conditions to the south. And then with this cloudiness coming up, that kicked off a couple of showers over the southern panhandle, but mostly the cloudiness acted to keep the temperatures a little cooler than what was seen up to the north. And back to the west, high pressure axis right up here across the southwest interior. That pushing most of that moisture off to the east and northeast there. Mostly IFR associated with us with some drizzle and fog there, the Seward Peninsula out towards St. Lawrence Island. And again, clouds south of that, and then some areas of light rain, really not heavy at all, basically in the green shaded area I painted there from the eastern Aleutians. Again, that beginning to slip on over into the Alaska Peninsula, and the main low center hanging back to the west. Only 1,005 millibars, so nothing too strong there, indicating light wind conditions. And for tonight, that area of high pressure moves eastward right into the interior. Nothing too terribly strong, but enough for light winds and probably partly cloudy skies or variably cloudy here through much of the interior. Evening showers ending over the mountainous areas, kind of lingering here over the eastern Copper River Basin from the Wrangels all the way up to the northeast interior there. It could be a little moderate up there at times. Otherwise, the Arctic coast, light winds, low clouds, variable patches of fog, and then this moisture continues to slip off up to the northeast there, kind of drying out a little bit there over St. Lawrence Island. Whatever precipitation fell there will be probably ending and staying cloudy though with some IFR up through the Bering Strait to the western Arctic coast. And this front again brings some light rain to the Alaska Peninsula or increases the chances of moisture there back up into the northern Bering Sea. This low center now drifting up to the northeast, tracking northeastward there, staying well west of the Pribilofs. A lot of clouds, scattered showers here over the Aleutians. And moving on to the forecast for tomorrow. Pretty good day, maybe a little more sunshine here over south central Alaska. Again, afternoon showers developing over the mountainous areas of Talkeetnas on up to the Alaska Range. Isolated thunderstorm activity there for the Northway Tok area, upper Tanana Valley, 40-mile country on up to the northeast interior with some shower activity probably spreading on out to the eastern coastline up there. Otherwise patchy fog and again light winds along the Arctic coast. Still some lingering moisture here, but not much around the Cape Lisburne and Point Hope areas. And chance of some afternoon showers there over the Norton Sound area, southern coast of the Seward Peninsula, and maybe some fog and drizzle around St. Lawrence Island. This front really weakening here, maybe just spreading a chance of some light rain to southwest Kodiak Island. Otherwise, general increase in the clouds and just some scattered moisture here across northeast Bristol Bay. Then from about the Kilbrook Mountains back on across the coastline there, Nunivak Island. Low clouds, fog, and drizzle with some of that moisture maybe reaching as far north as the Hooper Bay or Cape Romanzoff areas. And then lots of clouds, fog, showers, drizzle, light rain out here, but nothing heavy at all for the Pribilof Islands, southeast Bering Sea. Eastern Aleutians improving as you head west toward Adak and on out toward Shemya. Otherwise, a pretty good day for Prince William Sound coming up tomorrow, and the Kenai Peninsula looking really good. And most of the shower activity now will be developing along and east of the border here for the Panhandle. So just look for some mostly cloudy skies or partly sunny in some areas. And the outlook for the first day of the weekend here for Saturday, maybe a little more clearing here over the southeast coast. Could see some more sunshine and less of a shower threat along the eastern border as most of that moisture actually pushes into Canada or stays a little farther to the east. Still hanging on to mostly cloudy skies and showers and afternoon thunderstorms from the northeastern Alaska Range there, northward across eastern Tanana Valley up toward Eagle, and back to the west a little bit, just a risk of some isolated thunderstorm activity from the northern Koyukuk Valley to the Brooks Range. Generally dry here along the Arctic coast, winds mostly easterly here on the east side, a little more variable, but some pretty good winds. This cold front pushing out of the Russian Far East could bring small craft advisories here from the Bering Strait up across the Point Hope, Cape Lisburne areas there. And along with that will be a chance of rain and fog. Bering Sea, generally light westerly flow, big area high pressure here just south of the Aleutians. So really light winds here for the Aleutians, maybe some clearing, lots of low clouds, fog, areas of drizzle slipping right on into the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula, maybe on Alaska, Dutch Harbor, possibly the Pribilofs, but pretty light on no heavy precipitation or wind at all here for the Aleutians. Just a lot of IFR out there. Now we have low center developing, actually the original one pushing eastward now that came up from the southwest. Not too strong, 1,007 millibars. That'll be good enough for mostly cloudy skies with some shower activity along the southern Kuskokwim Valley, western Alaska Range, extending back toward the Kuskokwim Mountain areas. And then that front will swing across Kodiak Island late tomorrow night into early Saturday. So rain changing to showers, but continuing throughout most of the afternoon there for the island, and northwesterly winds. So Probably VFR, maybe some sunshine, Sand Point, but kind of socked in here on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. Pilot Point, Port Haydn, on down toward Nelson Lagoon. Probably looking at IFR with a little bit of drizzle, definitely fog. Same thing for the eastern Aleutians. No change out here over the northern Bering Sea. And for the temperatures this afternoon, 60s to lower 70s here across the southeast coast. Juneau up to 70 degrees, 68 there with some sunshine at Sitka, 65 over at Wrangell, 63 Petersburg, and Annette up to 65, while Klawock reached 63. Yakutat had some sunshine and 65. Cordova a couple of degrees warmer than that with 64 at Valdez. 55 Homer, warmed to 63 at Kenai. Otherwise, mid to upper 60s here for northern Cook Inlet right into the Susitna Valley areas. 70 degrees at Gulkana, and up to the north, 66 in Northway, 64 at Delta, then up to 74 there at Fairbanks, 69 over at Tanana, and mid-60s to lower 70s here through the central interior. That's Bettles with 73, Fort Yukon at 72. And mid-60s here for the Brooks Range area at the two locations, Anatuvik Pass and over at Arctic Village. Otherwise, the Arctic coast, mid to upper 50s there with Atchison at 57, Barrow at 54. Cooler with more persistent low clouds and drizzle over toward Kaktovik. Lower to mid-50s here on the west side, 48 at Wales, 58 over at Deering, while Kotzebue recorded 59, 61 up there at Kelly, and 50 degrees St. Lawrence Island. That was at Savunga. Nome 52, St. Michael 57, 53 at Amonik, and a 57 degree reading this afternoon at Bethel. Warmer up the Kuskokwim Valley there, lower to mid-60s with McGrath reaching 66 degrees. On out to the southwest. Well, out here over the western Aleutians, lower 50s from Atka on out to Shimia, and then looked like some sunshine must have broke out at Unalaska with 61 degrees this afternoon, around 50 for the Pribilofs, and mid to upper 50s here for the Alaska Peninsula. Chignik up to 60, and 68 there at Kodiak with 73 degrees. I believe that was at Kaliganik there with King Salmon at 68. Iliamna also 68. Lows for tonight, lower to mid-50s through the central interior, Tanana Valley, mid-50s up there over the upper Yukon Valley, with lower 50s back to the west, becoming upper 40s here for the Seward Peninsula, Bering Strait, 40s for the Arctic coast, a little milder in over the North Slope areas, and upper 40s to mid-50s here for the southeast coast. Low forecast 52 at Kodiak State Airport, otherwise lower 50s for the peninsula, upper 40s for the Aleutians and the Bering Sea. And then for the highs for tomorrow, back into the 70s, mid to upper here for the central interior, Tanana Valley, 76 possible there at Bettles. Lower 70s again for McGrath, and 60s out to the southwest coast. 50s here, Bering Strait, Seward Peninsula, Bering Sea, Pribilofs, Aleutians. Upper 50s for the Alaska Peninsula right through here, but mid-60s up toward King Salmon. 60s again for Kodiak Island. And 60s to lower 70s even for the North Gulf Coast here in south central Alaska, mid-70s for the Copper River Basin, and some nice mid-60s to upper 70s. Again, warmest locations will be over the northern southeast coast. For flying weather to start the day out, looks like VFR here across all of the Panhandle with some marginal stuff hugging the coastline. VFR Kodiak Island, western Gulf of Alaska, Prince William Sound, all the way up to the eastern Arctic coast where some IFR is possible. Marginal VFR here on the southern side of the Seward Peninsula, and that again hugs the coastline here right down to about Cape Newenham, otherwise Bristol Bay VFR, and some IFR here on the southern side of the Alaska Peninsula. Expect IFR anywhere out over the Bering Sea. And then for tomorrow afternoon, actually that IFR advances northeastward here across St. Lawrence Island right into the Bering Strait and down along the coastline. And also the southern side, really no change here for the Alaska Peninsula or the Bering Sea and Aleutians. VFR through the interior, isolated thunderstorms over the northeast, maybe some marginal stuff around Arctic Village, and less marginal VFR, but staying along or off the coast here of the Panhandle. Good conditions, wide open here for southern Alaska. And for passes, Anatuvik, VFR. Adigan, same forecast. Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR, rainy. In fact, all of the Alaska range will be VFR through tomorrow. And for Tenita, VFR. Portage, VFR on both entrances. Chilkoot and White, VFR. For the freezing levels, about 8,000 feet here over the western interior, then it jumps up 12,000 feet over the eastern Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula, and then about 10,000 feet here, Gulf of Alaska, down across the southeast coast. And for icing, not a whole lot with that weakening front. Could be some areas of light icing possible for the Pribilofs, Alaska Peninsula, especially up here from Nunivak Island down to Cape Newenham, but staying west or southwest of Bethel. Another area up there above 9,000 feet in the northeast. Winds aloft, jet stream here, 100 knots coming very close to the eastern Aleutians and then dropping off to the southeast. This system sliding southeastward. South to north flow, not all that strong, 30 knots through the interior. 9,000 foot winds, very light here, just 0 to 5 knots, variable. And then southerlies, not much stronger, 5 to 10 over the western interior, maybe up to 30 knots there for the Point Hope, Cape Lisburne zones. And light for the Panhandle. 3,000 foot wind south to southwest, 5 to 15 knots here up to the central Arctic coast, light and variable over the central and eastern interior, right on down into the Gulf of Alaska. Light winds across the southeast coast, trending offshore. Southwesterlies up to 25, looks like for the eastern Aleutians. And for turbulence, none over much of the interior, the southeast coast, North Gulf Coast, possible below 4,000 feet here for the eastern Aleutians. Also from the Bering Strait along the coast to about Wainwright. And after Stargazer, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
I'm not fazed by this at all. Part 2. Welcome to Stargazers. I'm James Albury, director of the Kika Silva Pla Planetarium in Gainesville, Florida.
And I'm Dean Regas, astronomer from the Cincinnati Observatory. You may remember that 2 weeks ago, James asked me a question about what phase the moon would be in if it rose at noon.
Yep, and you got it right, too.
Yes, I did. So, I have a question for you. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, if the moon sets at noon, what phase is it in?
It would be at last quarter.
Excellent.
Thank you, thank you. That reminds me of a moon joke.
Oh, well, you can tell it in a moment. Not yet, though.
Yay! So, we'll show you how I answered that question, and we have a really cool Mars moon and Saturn moon scoochie next week as well. Let's show you. When we talked 2 weeks ago about the phases of the moon, we mentioned that it takes about a week for the moon to go from one major phase to the next. For example, if the moon is in the new phase on July 4th, it will be at first quarter on July 12th.
When the moon is at first quarter, it's traveled a quarter of the way around the Earth, and therefore it's 90 degrees east of the sun in the sky. So the moon rises just as the sun is reaching its highest point in the sky at noon.
Then, a week after that, on July 19th, the moon is in its full phase and it's 180 degrees away from the sun in the sky. This means that the moon will rise as the sun sets and it will set as the sun rises. In the days following the full moon, we begin to see less and less of the daytime side of the moon and more of the nighttime side. These are called the waning phases. Waning means to get smaller, and the moon is appearing humped again, so we call this the waning gibbous moon.
On July 26th, it will have been a week since the full moon, which is now 3 weeks after the new moon. The moon has traveled 3/4 of the way around the Earth, so we call this phase last quarter. We again see half of the daylit side and half of the nighttime side, but reversed from what we saw at first quarter on July 12th. The moon is also visible in the early morning instead of the early evening.
In this configuration, the moon is now 270 degrees east of the sun, or less confusingly, 90 degrees west of the sun. So when the sun is at its highest point in the sky at noon, the moon will be setting on the western horizon. Ooh, hey, can I tell my joke yet?
In a minute. Lastly, we have the waning crescent phase. This occurs during the last week of the moon's orbit around the Earth, and we see the daylit side shrink more and more as the days pass.
On August 2nd, 29 days after the beginning of the moon's journey, the moon is back where it started, in a position putting it between the Earth and the sun. The moon is new once again.
All right, with that said, let's check out our planet moon scoochies. Okay, we have our skies set up for Thursday, July 14th, just after sunset, facing south. You'll see a waxing gibbous moon up to the left of a bright, non-twinkling reddish light. That light is the red planet Mars.
Advancing time one day to Friday, July 15th, you'll see the moon snuggled nicely next to the ringed planet Saturn, both of which are above the star Antares, the heart of Scorpius' Scorpion.
So there you have it, all the phases of the moon for you to enjoy, plus 2 planet moon scoochies.
Hey Dean, can I tell my joke now?
Go ahead, James.
Okay. How do you know when the moon has gone completely broke?
I don't know. How?
It's down to its last quarter.
Totally worth the wait. Keep looking up.
Welcome back. Well, we've got northwesterlies 20 knots here along the central coast and more of a westerly direction up on the north coast, and then lighter, more northerly winds on the extreme south coast. Sea's not too bad, running about 6 feet, give or take, out here. And very light winds, variable for the most part here for the inside waters, with seas 2 to 3 feet. And then for Saturday, still with the light variable wind conditions here over the central and southern inside waters, with seas no more than 2 to 4 feet. Southerly winds now for Lynn Canal, 20 knots, 4-foot seas. Otherwise, westerlies here all along the outer coastline, with in the 10 to 15 knot range, or 5 to 15 knots, with 5 to 6 foot seas. And for Prince William Sound, variable to southwest at about 10. Cook Inlet, variable to westerly at 10 knots. Seas all through those areas slight at 2 feet or less. Westerlies 20 knots possibly, or 20 knots or less for Kamishak Bay. More of a solid 20 knot wind for the Barren Islands, and then west-southwesterlies only at 15 for the North Gulf Coast, and southwest 20 there for Kodiak Island. Then those pick up again, that system swinging eastward. So in advance of that, southwesterlies 20 to 25 knots for the Barren Islands and the east side of Kodiak Island. Lighter and more south-southwesterly for the North Gulf Coast, and then probably southwest at 10 Prince William Sound. Same thing here for Cook Inlet, southwest 20 knots for Shelikof Strait. And out to Bristol Bay, southeast winds 15 knots tomorrow. And the peninsula, southwesterlies 15 to 20 knots, strongest on the Pacific side there, with seas up to 7 feet. And for the Saturday outlook, all westerly now. Bristol Bay only at 15 knots, but it looks like small craft advisories from Sitkinak all the way down to Cape Sarachep, and westerlies at about 20 knots on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula, with 5-foot seas, but running 8 to 10 feet here on the Pacific side. And out over the western Aleutians, Amchitka out toward Attu, southwest at about 20. Lighter westerlies at 15 through this area. Central Aleutians, west-southwest at about 20 knots with 4 to 8 foot seas. And then southwesterlies here across the eastern Aleutians, 20 knots with 4 to 8 foot seas. And then on Saturday, westerly winds across the entire Aleutian chain, 15 knots out here in the west, 15 knots over the central areas, and 15 knots for the Fox Islands, with seas only running 4 to 6 feet. And for the southwest coast, we've got southeast winds at 20 knots with 5-foot seas, more southerly and lighter for St. Lawrence Island, southeast 15 for the northern Bering Sea, and around St. Matthew Island, southwest 15 for the Pribilofs. And then those become more westerly and kick up to about 20 knots with 6-foot seas here for St. Paul and St. George. West winds at 15 for the southwest coast, 20 knots St. Lawrence Island, and 15 knots for St. Matthew Island. For the Arctic coast, easterlies from the central coast all the way to Demarcation Point, east-northeast 10 to 15, and then southerlies here 20 knots from Wales all the way up to Cape Beaufort. A little bit lighter here for the west side, and then on Saturday, that front approaching, small craft advisories definitely possible here from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort. 20, maybe 25 knot winds to the south, and pretty much easterly at 15 for the central and eastern Arctic coast there with 3-foot seas, and staying light here on the west side. For tonight, we've got this weak front spreading a chance of rain into the Alaska Peninsula areas with the IFR down on the southern side. A lot of IFR with showers, patchy fog, Pribilof Islands, Aleutians, and still some moisture here slipping up across the Cape, or Kivalina, maybe all the way up to Point Lay, and lingering here over the western Seward Peninsula. Not bad, high pressure moves in, so light winds and variably cloudy skies over the interior. Some showers lingering along the eastern border. And for tomorrow, mostly cloudy. Could be a little bit of clearing. If there is, consider it a bonus there for the Panhandle, but dry. Very weak front here brings a slight chance of moisture to Kodiak Island. No change, a lot of IFR here for the Bering Sea. And not too bad over the interior, mostly sunny in some locations here, North Gulf Coast, South Central Alaska, afternoon showers, isolated thunderstorms to the north, especially toward the eastern border. And that same sort of pattern on Saturday as well, with rain changing to showers Kodiak Island, afternoon showers and isolated thunderstorms in the interior.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
From her rich and fertile valleys to the shores of her icy seas, from her fields and farms and shellfish beds and her many nurseries, for the finest of her flavor, for the freshest by far, choose the things Alaskans bring to the market where you are. Products that we're proud to call our own, and it's all Alaska grown.